When they text you out of the blue, your world shifts. Your phone lights up, their name appears, and suddenly all the progress you've made feels fragile. What do? This moment defines everything: your strength, growth, and direction. Let me tell you something important. How you respond, or if you choose not to respond, has the power to protect your peace and solidify your transformation. This video isn't about sugarcoating the truth or ignoring your instincts. It's about giving you practical tools to own this moment and stand firm as the person you've worked so hard to become. The instant you see their name on your screen, your heart races. A mix of emotions floods in: shock, curiosity, maybe even excitement. But here's the hard truth. That message isn't a call to relive the past or find closure. It's a test of who you are now versus who you used to be. You've been working on yourself, building confidence, and finding your direction. You've fought to overcome the challenges of the past, and now, out of nowhere, the past is knocking on your door. What you do next will either cement your progress or undo it. This video will give you the tools to make the right choice, not the one society expects, not the one your emotions might urge you toward, but the choice that keeps you on the path to the future you deserve. By the end of this video, you'll gain clarity and control to face this moment with confidence. If that's what you're seeking, commit to watching this video all the way through. Every second is packed with valuable insights, and I promise you'll leave feeling empowered. If you're ready to take control, type "I'm ready" in the comments below, and let's get started. Number 1, the phone buzzes. You don't react. Picture this. You're sitting there, minding your own business, going through life, and then it happens. Your phone lights up, and you see their name. Instantly, your heart skips a beat, and your mind starts spinning. Questions flood in. Why are they texting me now? What do they want? Maybe your first instinct is to reply, to reach out, to crack open that door. Just a little. Stop. Take a deep breath. That buzzing phone isn't a call to action. It's a test. A test of everything you've been working on since the day they walked away. Here's the brutal truth. How you handle this moment defines your progress more than anything else. Do you really want to let their text dictate your emotions? Do you want them to have that kind of power over you again? Because that's exactly what happens when you react on impulse. It's not about what you say, it's the act of responding that pulls you back into their world. And trust me, their world isn't a place you need to revisit. You might think, but what if they have something important to say? Let me tell you something. Nothing they say is more important than the peace you've worked so hard to build. If it were truly important, they wouldn't have waited until now to say it. The fact that they're reaching out isn't about your needs. It's about theirs. And that's not your responsibility anymore. When you feel the urge to respond, remind yourself of this. You don't owe anyone a reaction. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the ultimate display of control. You're showing them and yourself that you're no longer at their beck and call. You're prioritizing yourself, your growth, and your boundaries. Boundaries aren't just walls to keep people out. They're standards you set for how you want to be treated. Anyone who violated those standards in the past has no right to test them now. Number 2, silence speaks louder than words. Let me ask you a question. What's the loudest sound in the world? It's not a scream. It's not a roar. It's silence. Silence cuts through the noise, makes people uncomfortable, and forces them to confront their own thoughts. When someone is trying to crawl back into your life, silence becomes your greatest weapon. Think about it. When you don't reply, you're not just ignoring them. You're forcing them to sit with their own emotions, their own decisions, and their own consequences. They're left wondering, why isn't there a response? Did I mess up? Are they over me? That silence is more powerful than any carefully crafted text you could send. It speaks volumes about where you stand, and more importantly, where they no longer stand in your life. But let's get one thing straight. Silence isn't about playing games. This isn't about trying to manipulate them into thinking you don't care. It's about reclaiming your energy. Every time you engage with them, you give away a piece of your emotional bandwidth. And let's be honest, do they deserve that after everything they put you through? Do they deserve even a second of your mental or emotional space? The answer is no. Here's the thing about silence. It's a boundary disguised as a response. By choosing not to engage, you're setting the tone. You're saying, "My peace matters more than your text." That's a message they can't ignore. In fact, silence is often the only thing that makes people realize they've lost access to you. It's a wake-up call, a reminder that they're no longer a priority in your life. Now, you might be thinking, what if they think I'm being rude? Let me tell you something. Their opinion of you doesn't matter anymore. They lost the right to have an opinion the moment they stopped treating you with respect. Your silence isn't about them. It's about you. It's about protecting your peace, your progress, and your power. So the next time your phone buzzes and you feel the urge to reply, remember this. Silence isn't just an absence of words. It's a statement. It's a declaration that you've moved on, that you're in control, and that you're no longer available for their drama. And that's a message they'll hear loud and clear. Number 3, your growth isn't up for debate. Let's talk about growth, real growth. The kind of growth that comes from hitting rock bottom and clawing your way back up. The kind of growth that forces you to confront your pain, your flaws, and your insecurities. That's the growth you've been working on since the day they walked out of your life. And let me tell you something. That growth isn't up for debate. Not now, not ever. When someone from your past reaches out, it's easy to feel like you need to prove yourself. You want to show them how far you've come, how much you've changed, how much better off you are without them. But let me ask you this. Who are you really trying to prove it to? Them or yourself? Here's the harsh truth. Your growth isn't for them. It's not something you need to showcase or validate. It's not a performance for their benefit. Your growth is for you. It's about reclaiming your power, rebuilding your confidence, and redefining your worth. If they can't see that, that's their problem, not yours. Think about it. When they left, they didn't care about your growth. They didn't care about the pain they caused or the pieces they left behind. So why should their opinion matter now? Why should their text hold the power to make you question everything you've worked so hard to achieve? Your progress isn't just about where you are now. It's about the journey it took to get here. The sleepless nights, the hard conversations, the moments when you wanted to give up but didn't. That's what matters. That's what defines you, not their text, not their approval, not their opinion. And let's be clear, the fact that they're reaching out says more about them than it does about you. It's a sign that they've noticed your growth, even if they won't admit it. But that doesn't mean you owe them an explanation. You don't owe them anything. So when you see that message and feel the urge to prove yourself, stop. Take a step back and remind yourself of this. Your growth isn't up for debate. It's not something you need to justify or defend. It's yours, and yours alone. And no text, no call, no message can take that away from you. Number 4. Closure is a myth. The idea of closure is one of the biggest lies we've been sold in relationships. You've probably heard it before. You need closure to move on. People make it sound like some magical conversation will wrap everything up in a neat little bow, heal all your wounds, and make you feel complete. But let me tell you the truth about closure. It doesn't come from them. It never has, and it never will. Closure isn't a gift someone gives you. It's a decision you make for yourself. Waiting for closure from someone else is like waiting for a storm to apologize for ruining your day. It's not going to happen. Think about it. The same person who caused you pain, confusion, and heartbreak is supposed to give you clarity. That's not how it works. If they had the capacity to give you peace, they wouldn't have caused the damage in the first place. Now, I know what you're thinking, but if I could just talk to them one more time, maybe I'd get the answers I need. Let me stop you right there. The answers you're looking for won't come from their words. They'll come from your own acceptance of what happened. Closure isn't about getting their perspective or understanding their reasoning. It's about deciding that their actions, their explanations, and their intentions are no longer relevant to your life. Seeking closure from someone else gives them power over your healing. It puts your emotional well-being in their hands. And why would you give that kind of power to someone who couldn't even handle the responsibility of being in a relationship with you? Closure isn't about their apology, their explanation, or their regret. It's about you reclaiming your narrative. When you realize that closure is something you create for yourself, you free yourself from the cycle of needing their validation. You stop waiting for the conversation that will never come, and you start focusing on what really matters: your growth, your peace, and your future. So, the next time you find yourself wanting closure, remember this. You don't need their words to heal. You just need to decide that their chapter in your life is over. Number 5. Their reasons are irrelevant. Why did they text me? That's the question you can't stop asking yourself, right? You see their name pop up, and your mind starts racing. Do they miss me? Do they regret what happened? Are they trying to make things right? Stop. Stop right there, because their reasons for reaching out don't matter at all. Let me repeat that. Their reasons are irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they're texting you because they're lonely, bored, or feeling nostalgic. It doesn't matter if they miss you, want closure, or are trying to rekindle something. None of that changes what you've been through or where you are now. Their reasons don't define your reality. Your response, or lack of one, does. When you start analyzing their motives, you're giving them a level of importance they don't deserve. You're allowing their intentions to take up space in your mind, a space that's precious. That space belongs to you, your growth, and your peace, not to someone who walked away when things got tough. Think about this. Why do you need to understand their reasons? What does it really change? Let's say they texted you because they miss you. Does that suddenly erase the pain they caused? Does it undo the nights you spent questioning your worth? No, it doesn't. Or maybe they reached out because they're bored. Does that make you feel any better? Probably not. Whatever their reason, it doesn't change what happened between you. And it certainly doesn't change the fact that you've been doing just fine without them. Here's a hard truth. Their reasons for texting you have more to do with them than with you. Maybe they're feeling guilty and want to ease their conscience. Maybe they're nostalgic and want to relive the good times. Or maybe they're just testing the waters to see if they still have access to you. But none of that matters. What matters is how you choose to protect your progress and maintain your boundaries. So, when you find yourself overthinking their motives, remind yourself of this. Their reasons are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is your response. And the best response you can give: silence. Because that silence speaks volumes. It says, I don't need to know why you're reaching out. I've already moved on. Number 6. Don't confuse nostalgia with progress. Nostalgia will have you sitting there, scrolling through old photos, replaying happy memories in your head and thinking, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe we could work things out. But let me tell you something. Nostalgia is not the same as progress. Just because you're remembering the good times doesn't mean you should forget the reasons it ended. Nostalgia is dangerous because it's selective. It only shows you the highlight reel, the best moments, the laughter, the intimacy. It conveniently leaves out the arguments, the tears, and the nights you felt alone, even when they were right next to you. Nostalgia is like a trailer for a movie you've already seen. Sure, the trailer looks great, but you know how the story ends, and it's not worth watching again. Here's where people get caught up. They mistake nostalgia for progress. They think that just because they can remember the good times without feeling angry or bitter, it means they're ready to revisit the relationship. But let me ask you this. Is moving backward really progress? Is reopening old wounds really a sign of growth? Of course not. The truth is, nostalgia is a test. It's a reminder of what was, but it's also a challenge to focus on what is and what could be. It's easy to romanticize the past, but don't let that pull you away from the present. You've worked too hard to get to where you are now. Don't throw it away for a relationship that didn't value you the first time around. When you feel nostalgia creeping in, take a step back and remind yourself of the whole story, not just the good parts, but the hard parts too. Remember the lessons you learned, the growth you experienced, and the person you've become since then. That person deserves better than to be dragged back into the past. And here's the kicker. The fact that you're feeling nostalgic doesn't mean you should act on it. It's okay to remember the good times. It's okay to appreciate the moments that made you happy, but don't confuse those memories with a reason to go back. Nostalgia is a reflection of where you've been, not a roadmap for where you're going. So, honor the past, but keep your eyes firmly on the future. Number 7. Self-control is the ultimate power move. Self-control is often overlooked as a key factor in success and peace. We live in a world filled with distractions, emotional triggers, and impulsive reactions. The modern age makes it easier than ever to be swayed by external influences, whether it's a text from someone from the past, the latest temptation, or an emotional reaction. However, self-control is what empowers you to rise above these distractions and maintain your peace, direction, and growth. When someone from your past reaches out, your initial reaction might be to feel pulled back into old patterns, doubts, and unresolved emotions. That message can stir up feelings of uncertainty, nostalgia, and even regret. But here's the key. Self-control isn't about denying those feelings. It's about managing how you respond to them. Think of self-control as a muscle that you've been strengthening through time. Every time you receive a message that threatens your peace, you have a choice: react emotionally or act consciously. The temptation to respond out of frustration, fear, or anger is normal, but indulging those emotions only gives them more power over you. When you practice self-control, you pause before reacting. You don't allow yourself to be ruled by your immediate impulses. Instead, you recognize the message for what it is: a trigger that wants to pull you back into a narrative you've already moved on from. Ask yourself, what am I really giving away if I respond? Is it your peace, your energy, or your time? What will you gain from engaging in this conversation? More often than not, the answer is usually nothing that serves your growth or well-being. Self-control gives you the strength to not only resist the temptation to engage, but also to maintain your focus on what truly matters: your goals, your peace, and your future. When you develop this self-control, you realize that you don't need to react to every external stimulus. You've cultivated a stronger, wiser mindset that knows its value and isn't swayed by others' attempts to disrupt it. Imagine the power that comes from not reacting impulsively. Instead of being driven by emotions, you act deliberately and intentionally. You recognize that the best way to handle their message is to choose silence or a measured response that aligns with your peace and well-being. Self-control is a form of freedom. It's not about suppressing your emotions, but mastering them. It's about realizing that you're in control of your responses, your energy, and your peace. And once you take full responsibility for these things, you become unstoppable. So, next time you receive that message, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? Am I reacting out of fear, or am I acting with purpose? The answer to that question will determine whether you continue to grow or whether you let distractions like these hold you back. Self-control isn't a sacrifice, it's a superpower, and with it, you'll find that the things that once triggered you lose their power over time. Instead of being ruled by external forces, you'll be guided by your purpose, your peace, and your progress. Number 8. Your value doesn't need validation. Society has a way of conditioning us to seek validation from others, as if our worth is somehow tied to how others perceive us. Whether it's through the approval of friends, family, or past relationships, we're often led to believe that if someone doesn't recognize our value, we must not be as valuable as we thought. This mindset keeps us locked in a cycle of needing external validation to feel worthy. But here's the truth. Your value doesn't require anyone's approval. It never did. The people from your past who didn't recognize your worth were operating from their own limitations, not yours. Their inability to see you for who you are doesn't diminish your value. It only reveals their own inability to appreciate what they had. When someone from your past reaches out, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that their message holds some kind of significance regarding your worth. You might think, if they're texting me now, it means they see my value. But why should their validation ever determine your sense of self-worth? Here's the real shift. Your value isn't something they can give or take away. It's intrinsic, woven into who you are as a person. Whether they appreciated you back then or not, that's their loss. You've grown, evolved, and built a life that reflects your worth. Their reaching out isn't a measure of your value. It's often more about their curiosity, regret, or the realization that they missed out. Think of it this way. You're like a masterpiece hanging in a gallery. Some people walk right past you, unaware of the brilliance you hold. Others may glance, admire, and understand your worth right away. But does your value change depending on who recognizes it? Number A, masterpiece remains a masterpiece, regardless of who acknowledges it. So do you. When you see that message from your past, don't allow it to become a measuring stick for your worth. The right people, the ones who truly value you, will see your worth without question. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The validation you seek is already within you. Remind yourself of this. I don't need their validation to feel worthy. I've always been enough. Say it out loud, write it down, and repeat it until it becomes your truth. The sooner you internalize this, the sooner you'll stop seeking approval from those who missed the opportunity to recognize your worth. Their message isn't about you, it's about them and their need for closure or validation. Don't give them that power. Your value remains intact, whether they see it or not. And once you realize this, their opinion starts to matter less. Number 9, be ruthless in protecting your peace. Peace is one of the most underrated aspects of life, yet it holds immeasurable value. In a world that often glorifies success, validation, and external recognition, many overlook the importance of inner peace. People chase after love, approval, and material achievements, often forgetting that peace of mind, the one thing that truly matters, gets sacrificed in the process. Once you've found your peace, protecting it becomes non-negotiable. Because here's the thing, once you lose your peace, it's not easy to get it back. The moment someone from your past reaches out, they might not be aware of the ripple effect that simple text could create. It stirs up old emotions, reopens wounds, and disrupts the calm you've worked so hard to cultivate. Protecting your peace isn't about shutting people out or building walls. It's about setting clear boundaries and enforcing them unapologetically. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're essential. They ensure that your emotional well-being remains intact. The people who respected your peace wouldn't have left in the first place, so why let those who contributed to your struggles back into your life? When someone from your past sends that message, ask yourself, is responding worth sacrificing my peace? Is responding worth reopening old wounds that I've already healed? More often than not, the answer is no. Their message isn't about seeking connection, it's about disrupting the peace you've worked to create. Think of your peace like a garden. It takes years of effort to cultivate, to weed out negativity, plant seeds of growth, and nurture your mental and emotional well-being. Are you really going to let someone who walked away from your life come back and trample all over it just because they've decided to show up uninvited? Of course not. So when you receive that message, remind yourself, my peace is priceless. It's the foundation of my happiness, my growth, and my future. Protecting my peace is essential, not selfish. If you need to, write it down, repeat it aloud, and remind yourself every time you're tempted to respond. The more you value your peace, the more it becomes a non-negotiable part of your life. Number 10. Expect the trap and sidestep. Let's be real. There's a trap waiting for you, and once you spot it, you can sidestep it every time. Their text isn't random or innocent. It's designed to pull you back into their world, their emotions, and their timeline. They aren't reaching out to check in or reconnect for your benefit. They're doing it for their own reasons. Whether it's seeking validation, curiosity, or a chance to regain control, they want to see if they still have a place in your life. The traps come in many forms, but they all have the same goal: to provoke a reaction from you. The guilt trip is a classic one. I've been thinking about us. I just feel so bad about how things ended. The nostalgia bait follows. Remember when we went to insert memory? And let's not forget the flattery bomb. I've never met anyone like you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. At first glance, these messages might seem harmless, maybe even sincere. But here's the hard truth. They're not. They're carefully crafted attempts to stir your emotions, get a response, and pull you back into their orbit. Once you engage, you're giving them control. You're stepping back into a cycle they're trying to revive. Here's what you need to understand. These traps aren't about you. They're about them. Their need for validation, their curiosity, their regret. They all reflect their issues, not yours. Your growth, peace, and direction don't depend on their actions or opinions. Why let someone who left disrupt what you've worked so hard to build? To sidestep these traps, awareness is key. The next time you see a message that tugs at your heartstrings, ask yourself, what's their end game? What do they stand to gain by me replying? If you look at their message through that lens, you'll start to see the trap for what it is. When you recognize it, walking away becomes the obvious choice. It doesn't make you cold or bitter. It makes you wise. You're choosing to prioritize your growth, your peace, and your future, instead of being pulled back into a place that doesn't serve you. So remember, traps only work if you don't see them coming. But once you know how to spot them, they lose their power. And when you sidestep them, you're stepping into a stronger, more empowered version of yourself. Number 11. Action over reaction. Let me ask you a simple question. What are you building right now? Maybe it's your career, your health, your passions, or your future. Whatever it is, I want you to hold that vision in your mind. Picture it clearly, and let's build from there. Now, let me ask you another question. Does their text help you move closer to that vision, or does it distract you from it? Here's the truth. Most people get this wrong. They think that responding to an ex, an old connection, or someone from the past is harmless. Just a quick conversation, they tell themselves, to tie up loose ends. But here's what I've learned. Every time you react to the past, you're sacrificing energy. Your energy is your most valuable resource. And reacting to a message that doesn't serve your future is like withdrawing from your life's bank account, taking away from the progress you could be making. Action over reaction means you have to shift your focus. Instead of asking, "What should I say?" ask, "What can I do right now to get closer to my goals?" Because here's the thing, reacting to their message doesn't bring you closer to your life's vision. It pulls you into a loop of distractions, nostalgia, and wasted time. But focusing on your actions, those deliberate steps you take toward your goals, that's what actually builds the life you want. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every reaction you give to them is a withdrawal. Every action you take toward your goals is a deposit. Which one do you think will pay off in the long run? The more you invest in yourself, your growth, your purpose, your peace, the less power their text holds over you. The key is to redirect your energy into something productive. Hit the gym, work on your side hustle, call a friend who lifts you up. Anything that reminds you of the life you're creating, because the best response to the past is progress. Every step forward you take sends a message they can't ignore. It says, "I've moved on, I'm thriving, and I don't have time for distractions." So the next time you feel tempted to respond, redirect that energy. Ask yourself, what's more valuable, my growth or this temporary distraction? The choice is clear. Number 12, you're already winning. Let's start with this. The fact that they're texting you at all is proof that you've already won. Think about it. If they were truly at peace with how things ended, if they were truly happy with where they are now, they wouldn't be reaching out. Their message isn't about checking on you, it's about checking your temperature. They want to know if they still have access to you, if they still matter to you, and that's not your concern. The truth is, your growth has caught their attention, whether they admit it or not. They can see that you're doing better without them, and that bothers them. It forces them to confront the fact that they underestimated you. It forces them to see you thriving in a way they didn't expect, and that's not your burden to carry. Here's the hard truth. You don't need their acknowledgement to validate your progress. You don't need their apology to heal. You've already done the hard work. You've faced the pain, rebuilt your confidence, and found your direction. Their text isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their regret, their curiosity, or their boredom. None of those things have anything to do with your worth. Your value has always been intrinsic. It's not something they can give you or take away. Think of it this way. You're like a masterpiece hanging in a gallery. Some people will walk by and see your brilliance immediately. Others might glance and keep walking, never realizing the treasure they just passed. But does that change your worth? Number. The masterpiece remains a masterpiece regardless of who appreciates it, and so do you. When you feel that urge to use their text as a measuring stick for your value, stop. Remind yourself of this. I don't need their validation. I've always been enough. Say it out loud if you need to. Write it down. Repeat it until it sinks in. Because the sooner you internalize that truth, the sooner you'll realize their opinion doesn't matter. Not now, not ever.